and welcome to Petal Projections, a community-driven show where we talk all things feminine artistry. Today we're going to be joined by Alex K. Masse, who is a writer featured in issue 9 of Petal Projections. Hope you enjoy. Awesome. So I'm glad to be talking with you. Do you want to just give, let me just make sure I'm recording. Yes. Do you want to just give everybody a brief on what you do, the work that you like to take part in, and just some stuff that you're up to?
Sure. Hello. My name is Alex K. Massey. I use they, them pronouns. I'm based in what is colonially known as Vancouver, BC, but my art kind of takes me all over the place, at least on a remote basis, because right now I'm apparently being projected to a bunch of people in Ontario.
There you
So
go.
that's cute. Uh, I'm a writer and musician, and I pretty much do like everything in those little fields. Earlier
Awesome.
this month, I had a play get a staged reading at a venue in Vancouver, so that was really
Nice.
cool. And obviously, I have some poetry and pedal projections. And yeah, I
Awesome.
also do music, so that's fun too.
Awesome. Do you want to tell us about the music stuff that you do?
Sure, I make music under the alias of Fairy Thing, as well as just using my name sometimes for like freelance instrumental compositions.
Nice.
Fairy Thing is kind of a shimmery, synthy bedroom pop project. It's very much inspired by like the cartoons and video games I grew up on. I use a
Nice.
omnichord. You can kind
Oh,
of see
cool. Yeah.
here. Yeah, I really like synthy, sparkly sounds, and my background as a poet definitely like affects my lyricism. I
Mhm.
find that a lot of my art kind of affects my other art. Like being a musician impacts how I write poetry and vice versa.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in this issue that are very, very multidisciplinary. So I'm just talking with a bunch of different people that are all like, "Oh, and I'm a musician and I do performance and I do this and I do this." And it's like everybody's just so talented in every direction. And
It's a fun way to be.
I really agree. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to, and I think that a lot of the time people with like so many practices going on, it's because they have like a same spot of inspiration that leads them in a bunch of different directions, which is always so fun to see.
Yeah, there are definitely like topics that I've explored in poetry and then explored again in music, or like it started as a song and then I started writing poems about it too.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
really fun, I find,
Mhm.
because it's interesting to see how the medium can affect like the final product. Or as you know, a lot of communication majors grow up hearing, the medium is the message.
Yeah.
My awesome academic
Mhm.
reference to Marshall McLuhan
Mhm.
for all three communication nerds in the audience.
There you go. Um, so do you want to talk all about the pieces that you have in Pedal Projections this issue?
Sure.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, these were two kind of, gosh, where do I even begin? I guess I should start with the planet with all the trees because I think that's the first one I submitted. This is actually a work that I wrote. The first draft of it came about a few years ago in my first serious poetry mentorship.
Hmm.
It was called Telling It Bent, and it was at a local theater, and it was all about poetry and playwriting for queer youth. So that was really cool. And the prompt for this was just kind of a utopian vision concept, like the
Right.
idea of a place that didn't have a lot of the heaviness and just, I don't know. It was like my idea of what a nicer place would be, what a gentler place would be. Because,
Mhm.
living on Canada slash Turtle Island, we are constantly aware of the impact of not just like colonialism, but also capitalism, climate change, all these things. Like
Mhm.
it's just everywhere. I mean, I don't know about how bad it's going to be over east, but we're already kind of gearing up for wildfire season over
Right.
here.
Yeah.
We're getting the PSAs again about how there will be fire bans and like to limit water use and
Hmm.
all that because that's just kind of where we are. And yeah, I guess just like understanding that and also just understanding the other like lasting legacies of all the violences of colonialism. It's like it's just, I guess it's kind of almost a meditation as a poem. Like the
Right.
idea of being able to write this story about this place where there are trees and people talk to each other and there's no like overproduction or mass production and There's no trauma carried throughout generations. Like, I don't think that that's a world that we'll ever see because, needless to say, there has been like violence done, but it's just like this nice little meditative practice on kind of here's a nice place that you can go to in your head, and you can remember that, like, I don't know, humanity can be good, and
Right.
there, like, this is the hand we've been dealt, but this isn't like the innate state of humanity, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that piece of I think the examples that you use to create this utopia, um, it's it puts it really into perspective for people in a way to have that meditative experience that you're talking about by using it and kind of like, well, we know these feelings, we can understand these concepts, even
Mhm.
if we understand them from experiencing the opposite.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really nice to put all of those images together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of just what the goal of the poem was. Like,
Hmm.
I know we probably won't end up in some magical world where, like, the lingering violences of capitalism and colonialism stop affecting us, but it's nice to just be like, this is a world that we can kind of take steps towards, even if it is just like imagining it and writing about it, because I think that that in itself can be an act of resistance.
Right. Yeah.
There's that Audre Lorde essay, poetry is not a luxury.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
should be mandatory reading, I swear.
Yeah.
And then there
Absolutely.
was the other poem. Oh God, the title is really long. It's like, and what a world it is where I can be stirred into hoping, I
Yes.
think is the full title. Yeah, this is another thing that I wrote. There's this lovely little zine project called Solastalgia that is in, I think it's based here in Vancouver, yes.
Mhm.
And I was in the first issue. I wrote a poem about how I'm really bummed that my sister's children are probably going to grow up in like this world that's affected so much by climate change.
Mhm.
And the prompt for the second issue came out, and it was something about like what inspires youth to like move and participate in climate activism. And I wrote a poem for that, and it got rejected. So I chopped it up and sent it to Petal Projections.
There we
And
go.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't like killing my darlings to that extent. Like if
Right.
a poem gets rejected from a specific theme that I wrote it for, then I will simply like put it somewhere and then I'll bring
Exactly.
it back
Yeah.
out and clean it up. And yeah, this poem, and What a World It is kind of just about how I know that like so much of the burden is sometimes, well, so much of the trauma of the climate crisis is often put onto youth
Mhm.
because, so many of us have been at the forefront of it. Like, I remember there was a period where you couldn't go like a week without Greta Thunberg being in the news.
Yeah.
And I think that like there's generally like this kind of stereotype going around almost of like the Gen Z cares about the climate crisis, but older people sure don't. And like it's easy to just like kind of lump everyone together and be like, yeah, boomers are the ones who got us into this problem, and they still deny it exists. And it's like that doesn't really seem
Mhm.
fair. And this is just kind of an ode to the fact that like I've known a lot of climate advocates across generations. I have like parents, teachers, neighbors who have inspired me to like care about the climate and all that. And I don't know, I just feel like that's really important to be able to like not generalize because I also find that generalizing generations is kind of a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Like when people are like the older you get, the more conservative you get, it's because a lot of the people who were more left-leaning were people who were affected by marginalization, and that means that they like dealt with like extra stress and extra oppression, and that means a lot of them probably died younger. Like if you're older because you if if we associate being older with being more conservative, it's just because those people had the money and resources to live
Right.
long. And I don't know. I'm not saying that like, like all liberal and leftist people are like super oppressed and gonna die super young, but like there's just kind of this stereotype going around that I find is counterproductive because it kind of erases the lived experiences of like, like older people of color, older queer people. And it's just this thing that like constantly happens and it irritates me. So this
Yeah.
poem is just kind of an ode to all the cool older people who have been advocating for the climate crisis. And also just like the fact that one day us little Zoomers will be those older people, and we want to be able to inspire and, just keep the cycle going.
Right. And I think the whole idea of being stirred into hoping, when I like when I imagine a classroom of like myself and my peers at an age where all of us were like, of course we're saving the environment, like duh. And like imagining like what happened in what year and like I'm trying to go back and figure out when it like flipped
Yeah.
because it was like so distinct. Um, and thinking about like the people that taught us um to hope and to taught us to hope beyond hope and just understand that like we will see that in our time and then what happens to make us not believe or work for that and also what happens to make us keep believing and working for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is easy to be like, a total doomer about it and be like,
Mhm.
well, it's in the hands of these big corporations and we're doomed. But it's like, I don't know, just even being able to participate in like local efforts and local
Mhm.
organizing can really help you like take matters into your own hands, or at least take feelings into your own hands,
Right.
because I find that that's really important.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, it's amazing that you were able to put such specific topics and like things you're so passionate about into these works. Like it's really, really impressive. And the concept of like the harvest in the second piece you talked about in What a World It Is, where I can be so stirred into hoping. The concept of the harvest and saying like I do it for these people, I do it for um all of these examples of figures that you had in your lifetime or that somebody might have had. It's really just like a beautiful concept to think about everything, just watching everything unfurl before the people that you care about and watching great things happen. Um, yeah, so thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like community is something that comes forward whenever I think about like the climate crisis
Mhm.
or like any of the stuff that we've spoken about, because this did not happen in a vacuum. I did not get
Sure.
radicalized in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I did not like get inspired to care about this stuff just by myself. I had like teachers, family, friends, neighbors, community. Like there are a lot of people that I owe to the fact that I am, as aware as I am and also as hopeful as I am.
Right. Is there anything that you want people to take away from your work generally? I think that concept of community is what like really brought me to that question because I think that you've obviously been very inspired by the people around you. Is there a way that you want to in turn inspire?
I guess that like yeah, I hope that I inspire people to connect with their communities and stuff and like see the potential in the people around them, and
Hmm.
also just like remember that there's that community, because I'm pretty sure that we all have like that like hippy dippy neighbor or relative that like told them like to care about the climate, or we all like have that one class where we got to like do this or that. Like here in BC, specifically the Lower Mainland, I don't know if this is an international phenomenon, but for years, like ever since I was very young and up to this point, people are still doing like the little wooden fish that they put on chain link
Oh
fences.
yeah.
Yeah, they're still doing that.
That's
The
awesome.
elementary school that's by my house actually just put theirs up like a year or two ago. So like that's still going on. And I don't know, maybe there's a memory there. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, just the idea of being able to find solace and feel less alone, I guess, and being able to see the
Yeah.
potential, beauty, hope. That's all I want to put out there.
That's awesome. That's a great thing to want to put out there, honestly. And you do an amazing job of it.
Thank
Just
you.
like absolutely so inspired. Is there anything that you want to promote or share, like any places people can find your work or any maybe like
Sure.
shows or anything you have going on?
My big show of the like first half of this year actually just kind of wrapped. That would have been
Oh my
fate.
gosh, yeah.
else, but that was very exciting. That was ex
Mhm.
there was a gala and everything. It was
Whoa, that's so exciting. Congrats.
yeah, it was three plays about disability and it was a whole thing. It was super
Mhm.
cool. As for upcoming stuff, most of it is like local in Vancouver, so I don't know how much of that applies here, but if you want to follow my shenanigans, I am at Fairything Flies on Instagram and I'm Fairything on all streaming platforms. I have a new song coming out next month and I had a
Awesome.
song come out last month. So there's a lot going on there. And also, yeah, I'll be posting about where else you can find my poetry when that gets shared out into the world. Yeah, I don't know. Just stay tuned. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so exciting to hear.
Thank you.
And I honestly, I can't wait to stay up to date with all of that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Um, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
Really
for having
appreciate it.
me. And I
Absolutely.
hope that the launch and stuff all goes well. I'm cheering you on
So
from the West
much.
Coast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so excited about it. It's a lot of work, but it's exciting. And I'm so excited to share all of that with you because I want to like send all of these updates out as much as possible.
I
Uh,
appreciate it so much. Like your emails are always so
oh
positive.
my gosh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I
You're such a
try.
sweetheart.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It was so nice chatting with you. I really hope to keep in touch.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Have a
good
good
rest of your
afternoon.
day. Bye.